I think it was RFK Jr. that said, obviously the chances of him winning are slight, but he said he'd match whatever the U.S. Treasury is holding in gold. He'd match it with Bitcoin. How much would that be and that's, he may be the one who said it, but you could see that years from now actually being the case. And that would be a lot.
Yeah, so I don't have that calculation off the top of my head, but the U.S. government currently owns about $12 billion worth of Bitcoin at these market prices. I'm sure gold is exponentially larger than that. But what I think Bobby Kennedy is saying, which I like and which I have been saying for the last 4 years, is that Bitcoin is actually an asset class. And so if you step out and think about it as an asset class and you compare it to things like gold, well, gold has, depending on the markets and current prices, $15 to $17 trillion worth of market value. And Bitcoin is sitting somewhere at 1/10 of that. And so over time, and I think this is one of the big arguments that the ETF holders are making and the people that are pursuing the idea of selling ETFs to individual investors, that this is an asset class. You should own 1% to 2% of it in your portfolio. And over time, it should trade to, if not exceed, the price of gold. The first thing I would say is that there was selling by the German government that forced prices down to the 53,000 level. You've also had the distribution of Mt.Gox, Joe. This is probably $9 billion or so dollars worth of Bitcoin was distributed. Most people got their coins this week. People like myself and Skybridge are getting our coins next week, although I think those people will mostly hold Bitcoin. But I think the message here is that we need to make Bitcoin and the regulation around blockchain and cryptocurrency bipartisan. And so Mark Cuban, myself, Michael Novogratz, we were down in Washington a few weeks ago speaking with officials at the White House, explaining the danger of the Gary Gensler, Elizabeth Warren anti-crypto approach. And so hopefully that message is getting through. We almost had Vice President Harris at the Bitcoin conference. I know the guys that run that conference are sore at her, but her schedule is overwhelming at this moment, and it's a miss for her. She should have been there, but I understand why she wasn't. But I think by and large, if we can get the regulatory policy, Joe, around Bitcoin and crypto assets in sync, I think you've got a bull market next year coming for these assets.
Welcome to the Crypto Teacher. And I come back with that video just to make you think.
Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel.
And make sure you join the Patrons. If you're not a part of the Patrons, make sure you're hitting the Cash App. And guys, make sure you go and follow and like the TikTok. And we have Scaramucci in the house on Bitcoin, talking about Trump speaking at the conference, and that he may speak about holding Bitcoin as reserves. And then we know Scaramucci, he's just like Galaxy Digital's Mike Novogratz, states that his company Skybridge had Bitcoin with Mt.Gox. And believe me, it's no coincidence he was with FTX and the bank man. Remember, guys, this is all a movie. You sit back, get your popcorn, and let it play out. And we have Trump about to speak in a few hours. And he's about to put Bitcoin and crypto on a global stage. It doesn't matter what he states. We know the mainstream media is going to run with it. And the older generation that would have never thought about buying Bitcoin, you have Trump and RFK Jr. speaking about Bitcoin. What are they going to do? They're going to follow them and buy Bitcoin. But as we know, as Bitcoin is moving up, we know once Trump goes back behind that curtain, Bitcoin and crypto will pull back. But next week, we have Jerome in the house, and we know they like the markets to look good. Of course, once he disappears, the market pulls back. But then at the beginning of August, we know we start to move up. We don't have to worry about the Fed next month, but we also know the climax of the movie is about to begin. And this movie is going to last for about 3 to 5 years. And remember, the Crypto Teacher told you, remember, your life is an illusion and TV is your reality. And who controls it all? That's right, the central banks. And we have the Fed getting ready to get into that rate cutting cycle along with the other central banks, because we know Japan has to make a move. And we're going to get more distractions and the drums are going to start getting louder. And remember, the crypto teacher told you, because he knows when it comes to the NWO, it's all planned out. You have a wonderful day.
Does Trump have to win?
Well, no. See, I actually think it's going to go one way or the other. I do think this will be bipartisan. If Vice President Harris wins the election, I think she moves to the center on Bitcoin regulation. If Donald Trump wins, there's a rumor that he'll be talking tomorrow about creating what Bobby Kennedy's talking about, which is a strategic asset reserve for Bitcoin, where the government would actually step in and start buying it, which obviously would be very beneficial to Bitcoin. But Joe, I think it's a very simple story, very simple catalyst. You have a reduction in supply as a result of the halving. The network is only sending out 450 coins now. In April or prior to April, it was 900 coins. And you've got huge ETF inflows. I think the BlackRock ETF has exceeded the QQQs this year in terms of net inflows going into Bitcoin. So this is a supply-demand equation. You have to remember the Wall Street engine hasn't turned on yet. There are wirehouses talking about onboarding these ETFs. Joe, you and I have been around a long time. We know Wall Street is a selling mechanism. It's a selling machine. Just imagine legions of FAs and financial consultants explaining to people that they need to own some Bitcoin. And just briefly, Jersey City, the mayor there just announced that he wants a 2% exposure to Bitcoin in his pension fund. The state of Wisconsin disclosed, I guess, last month, $150 million going into Bitcoin. And I think you'll see Bitcoin becomes part of that global tactical asset allocation portfolio for investors, institutional and individual investors, and that will push the price up. And again, if you believe like we do at Skybridge that it's an asset class, Joe, it's too cheap where it is.
I remember when he said it. I thought it was unfortunate. I think I was shaking my head, and I wish he hadn't. But he has made a transition at this point to, I don't know if he's a full Bitcoin maximalist, but he is on board. And I guess we're going to hear that on Sunday.
So, Joe, you just said you were a prophet. That's good to know. Here's what I can tell you without any question. You were not alone. 20,000 more people showing up at a financial conference here in Nashville is a big deal. Bitcoin's future has to be in America. What we know about the Biden administration and the SEC is they've been anti-Bitcoin, anti-digital assets. Elections have consequences. If I have the good fortune of being the chairman of the next banking committee, what we're going to do is make sure that innovation happens in America. That means that the regulations cannot be oppressive, and we cannot have an SEC nominee that actually wants to run it back to China or run it out of the country.
Jay Powell's going to tee up a rate cut for the September meeting after this next one. He's not going to promise anything. Of course, he said if trends continue on the direction that we see, we would be amenable to easing financial conditions at our next meeting. And certainly he's not even going to commit how much it's going to be. But I think that's definitely what's going to be the setup next week.
Going to a different economy. And we're going to be learning more about that as we go. But clearly, we're learning that things can be done from remote locations. We're learning that technology can replace people even more than we thought.
We're not going back to the same economy. We're recovering, but to a different economy, and it'll be one that is more leveraged to technology. And I worry that that is going to make it even more difficult than it was for many workers.
In Silicon Valley, and my friends who work in technology know that what we did to the manufacturing workers, we are now going to do to the retail workers, the call center workers, the fast food workers, the truck drivers, and then even bookkeepers, accountants, insurance agents, lawyers, and on through the economy. So what happened to the manufacturing workers is a very clear sign.
And so we'll import Chinese-based CBDC technology. So it's going to be CBDC in a box provided to you by the People's Bank of China.
But every stock, every bond, every currency, every commodity, every piece of art, every private business, every piece of real estate will eventually be a token on a blockchain, an entry on a ledger, permanent and immutable. We will have truth instead of trust, and we will save over $7 trillion a year. 6 to 8% of global GDP is wasted by the friction of the trust industry that's necessary when you have dual entry accounting. With triple entry accounting, which is what a blockchain is, we get rid of all of that friction. It's a beautiful future.
Like what you see in China and their social credit scoring systems, right? If we get identity wrong, it could be a tool to enslave humanity. And if we get it right, it could be a tool to liberate humanity. And as an American, I'm obviously rooting for the one that's on the side of freedom.
Bitcoin is an international asset. And also, I do believe the role of crypto is, it's digitizing gold.
I actually believe this technology is going to be very important. Look at it. We have been part of a huge revolution in investing through ETFs. We believe that ETFs will be changing the whole way we invest. Many people still use it as a means, people are investing it for indexing. No, the majority of people who are putting money in in ETFs are active investors that are buying exposure. The entire bond market is being transformed as we talk right now. I believe the next generation for markets, the next generation for securities will be tokenization of securities. And if we could have that distributed ledger that we know every beneficial owner, every beneficial seller, we all have our code of who's buying, who's selling, instantaneous settlement. And think about it, it changes the whole ecosystem.
Chinese bank ICBC has been hit by a ransomware attack, and the U.S. Treasury market, as a result of that, has been disrupted. This, according to the Financial Times. We're getting it more right now with Bloomberg's Shonali Bassick. Shonali, what do we know?
Listen, we have the Financial Times now reporting that ICBC, one of China's largest banks here, was hit with a ransomware attack. And remember, they're a very significant intermediary in the Treasury market. The SIFMA has told its members that this has been part of the reason here that the system is kind of clogged up, if you will, during that auction that we saw a little bit before. The attack had prevented ICBC, according to the Financial Times, from settling Treasury trades on behalf of other market participants. A large executive at a major bank also telling the paper that such a large party on the fixed income clearing corp creates major concerns, potentially impacting the liquidity of Treasury markets.
Now, it was not just a poor auction. It was absolutely lousy, and when the dealers have to step in to save a treasury auction, that's a rare occurrence. And
Cryptoteacher and the New World Order book, plus the 3 kids books, It's Time to Re-Educate. Also, new to cryptos, Coinbase, Bitrue, Binance. Do not forget book links and crypto links are in the description. The stock channel, guys. Don't forget to go like, subscribe, spread everywhere. You have your Kobo, your chip stocks, your banking, your gaming. While everybody's sitting at home, get on stocks, the Seaver, the biotech stocks. And while everybody's at home wishing, they were still getting that free money. What are they doing? Drinking and smoking weed. Don't forget about those stocks, and you have a wonderful day. The most powerful person in the world is the storyteller. The storyteller sets the vision, values, and agenda of an entire generation to come. Steve Jobs. And guys, I truly believe in this. When you look at the New World Order, they're the storytellers. And that's the reason why I wrote my New World Order book. But guys, now it's time to change the current generation. And I wrote 3 kids books. I love the Trinity because I understand the power that's in it. So I have 3 books. We have an opportunity to change the generation, to educate, not just me, but I want to show you that I take action on a daily basis. And I want you to take action on a daily basis. Whether it's your job, whether it's in your community, we have an opportunity right now to educate the masses. I posted this on my Twitter account. Please share, but this is a short clip of the 3 books. There's going to be a clothing line and action figures. Please get these books for your kids, nephews, cousins, friends, so therefore we can start the re-education now. Because as we see, the 4th Industrial Revolution foundation is definitely here. Robots, algorithms, drones, taking humanity out the picture. We have to re-educate. But let's get into the video.
Part 1. King Joshua and Drama Team save the village. Part 2. King Yahshua and Grandma King save New York. From COVID 33, Part 3. King Yahshua and Grandma Tam goes to China.
It's mandatory to get part 1, part 2, and part 3 of this series. It's time to re-educate Generation Z.